Durka versus Aspas, who wins?
In the most political way possible that gets you in no hot water whatsoever.
I'll be in hot water, bro.
I am just curious about your very polite and respectful thoughts on the team without Aspas, you know, for
Para você que quer comprar aquela skin do Valorant ou qualquer outro jogo da sua preferência, ou ter acesso aos melhores gift cards para todas as plataformas, apresento a vocês o Rei dos Coins. Lá você também pode personalizar o valor ideal para o seu gift card de acordo com a sua necessidade e ainda ganhar cashback em cima desse valor. Não perde tempo e acesse o reidoscoins.com.br. Fala galera, tudo bem com vocês? Desde que o FNS decidiu se afastar do competitivo e se dedicar mais às lives, ele tem opinado bastante sobre diversos assuntos. Inclusive, recentemente até comentou quem seria melhor, o Aspas ou o Dirk.
Durka versus Aspas, who wins? I mean, it's too close to call. I think Aspas edges it very, very slightly. Very slightly. Because Aspas's jet is out of this world, and I think they have an equal raise. Feel me?
E o FNS também participou do episódio mais recente do Plat Chat, onde eles falaram bastante sobre os times do VST Américas, inclusive comentando sobre a Loud, se a Loud teria dado um downgrade em relação ao ano passado, saca só?
You know,
I'll shut up.
Aspas for a long time.
Anything I say will be used against me.
I was gonna send it to you for the first question.
Dude, what, man? What do you want? They're the best. They're the greatest of all time. No one's touching Loud, man.
We all know they're an S tier team, but okay, in the most political way possible that gets you in no hot water whatsoever.
I'll be in hot water, bro.
I am just curious about your very polite and respectful thoughts on the team without Aspas, you know, from your perspective on the outside watching, but also, you know, like theoretically, if you decided to still play this year, and you were competing and you were going up against Loud, how much of a difference is this going to make for the squad?
I think massive, right? And that's giving all credit to the rest of the guys. Like, that's giving credit to SatHack, to his, basically everyone that's still there. Or sorry, yeah, everyone that's still there. But the thing is, Aspas is just that good, right? I have that much of a stock on that player that losing him isn't. He's not a player that's replaceable, right? So obviously, by objectively looking at it, you can't say that this team will be as good as they were last year. How can you just say that? I don't think you can, objectively. So based off of that, when I look at teams like Energy that are formed, when I look at teams that I live that are formed, how am I supposed to put Loud ahead of them? I can't. So that's why, to me, they're slightly gonna like a tier below that, and you know, we'll see how they do. But again, we haven't seen. I have no scrim results from them. I don't know how they're playing. I don't know what their comps are or anything like that. So little information to go by. But yeah, I don't think they're going to be nearly as good without Aspas. Now I'm fucked.
If Loud had been playing last year with QCK as the duelist and they'd done everything else exactly the same, it's hard to believe that they would have been as good. It really is. I think the only way that you can justify putting Loud as still an elite tier team is that you have enormous amounts of faith that SatHack is going to be able to rebuild the entire way that this team functions. Like, previously, they were loading a lot of responsibility and resources into Aspas and having him be a priority player. It was like Aspas and Les were the two people that you would see being put in positions to massively succeed in this team. And now I just don't think they're going to do that with QCK. They've spoken about the fact that they didn't want a player that was a direct replacement for Aspas. They are not going to try and put all of their eggs in the QCK basket and have him set up as like a star opper. I just don't believe it. But I don't see what the vision is. And I'm willing to give a lot of credit to SatHack that he's going to be able to come up with an interesting system for this team. But I don't know what the hell it's going to be. I can't think of how.
Oh yeah, I know it's going to be less to duelist. I'm on board.
Yeah,
you
maybe.
Put less on Jet, I'll shut the fuck up right now. I'll be like, all right, you guys got that. now we can see some real shit because I know how insane Les is. So it's like, if you're capable of doing that, then obviously it's so unrealistic and it's never gonna happen. So yeah, I just don't know. I can't put them above NRG and Lev. Like, I just can't. Not yet.
I think it's interesting because the last 2 years they've obviously faced off-season changes with Penkata and Saucy leaving last year and whatever. But this year it's different in terms of what they've chosen to go for, right? Last year was a bunch of young players, build them up, kind of playing the same sort of system. Here, they've completely accepted the idea that they can't replace Aspas. And I think that's a good sign. With that being said, like, yeah, it's going to be tough to even figure out how to continue from there. But I think you're probably going to see them move away from a lot of the like meta-defining stuff that they tried to do with Harbor Viper. I think they're going to try to play just a lot more solid in general. And
one thing I do like about them is the fact that they innovate so much, right? That's what's different about them.
Yeah, they do.
That no one else in NA has done to that extent. Viper Harbor, we directly stole that from them last year. And they were the only teams to do that. Before that, they were playing Gecko on Split. Like, no one had even thought about that. And that's the old Gecko. So it's like, they are not afraid to change up their comps, which will make them very, very unpredictable and hard to anti-strat. So for teams like NRG and coaches like Chet, who are heavy on anti-stratting, that will be very difficult to deal with. So in that sense, maybe they have a little bit more of an advantage in that sense. But
I just think the players that they have still, Les Kawanzine, like those guys are insane. Kawanzine is fucking nuts, right? Like he's still very good and he still has room to grow. Tui's as well, like, yeah, he had some rough spots. I think that spoke a little bit more to the environment that they were in throughout the year than anything else. But he had the best harbor still, like to my mind, he was still like the best harbor of the year. So these guys can still brag, and I think it's crazy not to think about them as contenders for these international tournaments and as contenders to win a split, despite the fact that, yeah, I still put NRG, I still put Leviathan higher than them, but this is a team that will for sure still be very, very, very good. And
the weird thing about them is just that they've loaded the team with so many supportive elements compared to, or not even that, but they have a lot of supportive elements, and then they also have their star, like their biggest fragging players are playing roles where you can't always put them in position to succeed in a round. Like you can't always ensure that Les is in the place to be able to influence the round when he's playing his current role. I mean, maybe you can if Chamber comes back into the meta, but it's more difficult than doing that with a duelist. And the same with Kawanzine. You can't always put Kawanzine in a place where he's going to be able to go crazy, especially with Sky not being as available. So they just have a very fundamentally different team to most other teams. They don't have the... They're going to have to rely much more on how they play off each other and trying to come up with unique ideas and unique compositions, I think. I mean, what do you think about potentially, like, if they started innovating a Chamber Cypher kind of meta?
Like I said, if they have that in their arsenal, which they've shown that they're capable of switching up comps like that, then by all means, like, they can definitely have some sort of an edge going into BO3s versus teams. But that's just, you're relying on a surprise factor at that point. Like I said, Aspas was no surprise factor. You knew exactly what was coming and it was still hard to stop.
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of scared in terms of like the innovation factor that they have. Yeah, they have the you know, they have the people to be able to do that sort of stuff, but the flexibility factor I feel like almost always came from Sadak, and I just like it's tough for him to constantly be that guy at this point.
Well,
right?
I mean,
QCK is going to add some flex factor.
Yeah, Quick has played everything at this point. I mean, he played duels for a super long time. He played a lot of Chamber too. I mean,
I'm actually curious. You think you will only see this guy on Duelist? Probably not, right? I think we're going to see.
I don't think so. Even
He'll
on
be flexing
previous,
around a ton, I think.
Yeah, on previous Furia iterations over the past couple of years, there were times where he was playing like Jet and then other support agents, Chamber, other support agents. He was playing like Raze at times and then a support agent on a different
Remember
map.
that Tui's used to be a duelist as well before he joined his team to play Smokes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
They could actually just completely crush our expectations of what roles people are going to be playing.
Yep.
They could be coming out playing whatever. It's really difficult to tell.
I mean, when Quick was playing Jet and all that, he was a fucking wild player. He was a really aggro.
The only one we don't see, right, changing is Les, just because he was world class at his role.
I guess.
Yeah.
Kaunzin for
Yeah.
me as well. It's...
Yeah, true.
right.
Silva was
Yeah.
insane.
Right. But the other three, you do have a lot of options
Yep.
as to what you want to do.
I have a
if
question,
you want to
though.
play Duelist.
I have a juicy question. What if Loud doesn't do well, and Pancata is allowed to leave Sentinels? You think Pancata goes to Loud?
I think if they wanted to try to move Tuiz into a different role, or possibly even less into a different role, then Pancata might actually be a really good pickup for them. But that's the kind of like mid-season adjustment that you would see if they... The thing is, though, Loud at this point, they must have been practicing for a while. Like, they must know their own identity as a team by now. Not that I've heard anything about it, but they must have a good idea about whether or not they're going to be successful at the start of the season already.
Mas e aí, qual a sua opinião sobre tudo isso? Deixe nos comentários, aquele abraço, até o próximo vídeo.